Tom Hardy's Walker fights his way through a nightclub to search for and protect a politician's son in the hard-hitting, action-packed thriller Havoc, currently streaming on Netflix. Brad.
Yes.
Okay.
You've been waiting for this movie for a very long time, Bryan. I think it has appeared on your most anticipated list for like the last 5 years.
Yeah, you know where I was going with this. So yeah, let's give a little bit of context before we actually get into the review.
All right.
Okay. Gareth Evans, not Edwards, Evans.
Different dude.
Different dude. We love The Raid and The Raid 2.
Yes.
He made another movie, Apostle. I think we saw that at Fantastic Fest.
We did.
Like 2018.
We liked that less.
Like that less. This was his return to form, how people kind of knew him from his action movies. So when I knew that he was making Havoc with Tom Hardy, the director from The Raid, man, and we've been doing this show for a couple of years, and like you said, our most anticipated list, I've had this on my list for at least the last 2 years.
Yeah, anticipation is a hell of a drug.
It's a hell of a drug, man. So the movie finally comes out. I'm super excited. It's here. Okay.
All right. Let's review this thing.
I'm going to pass it on to you.
Oh, that's how it's going to go.
I'm going to pass it on. No, just your overall thought. I got a lot more to say, but what's your overall thoughts?
So I think the movie has some great action in it.
Yeah.
Like it does deliver on what you want from the man who made the Raid films.
Yeah.
It's not as good as the Raid. It's not as good as Raid 2.
No. Oh, God, no.
But that's a high bar, and you can't judge every movie with a masterpiece, right? It's not fair. It's not fair to Havoc. So let's just look at Havoc on its own terms.
Yeah.
It has an abysmal opening. All right, the first 40 minutes of this movie is rough.
It is. And I think it started with that opening action sequence with the trucks.
Yeah.
And I mean,
it don't look good, Bryan.
I know. Part of me wants to really like advocate and kind of defend it a little bit. And
choices are being made, and I respect choices being made.
Yes,
they're not choices that I agree with.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's a budgetary thing, but
definitely.
But again, because you can also say this could be a stylistic choice as well.
There is style. I mean, it's Sin City-esque, you know.
Yeah,
right?
it is. But when you place that supposedly in a real world type setting, then that opening sequence, it's jarring. And it kind of, unfortunately, it sets the mood at the top of the movie for that. It's like my anticipation now might start to kind of come down a little bit more.
Honestly, once I kind of hit rock bottom after that action sequence, which does have some interesting ideas in it, right?
No, it does.
I feel like if you had filmed a practical version of that scene, it would have been pretty darn good.
Yeah. I don't mind Tom Hardy in this movie, and I think for him, the way Gareth Evans describes him is like he's a bruiser. And I think when you look at the fighting style and the way that this movie is directed, I think he fits kind of like that mold of being like this bruiser type of...
He's a goon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's made all these terrible choices in his life that have brought him to this decision. To this place, and then the decisions he makes from here, I'm not exactly sure why he makes them. Like I don't think the script does a really great job of differentiating him from all the other corrupt cops.
Moving on from the characters and the story, which we both agree is not great. You're right. The first 40 minutes of this movie is rough. It is extremely rough. The scripting is not great. The dialogue is not great. When we hit that nightclub and we get to the action, what Gareth Evans is known for, his showcase of action, I think, is rivals by no one else. I mean, maybe Timo Giajanto. When you're talking about Hong Kong action or action that we see in foreign films and things of that nature.
He knows how to do wild things with the camera, and he's really pushing himself in that nightclub sequence.
Yeah.
And he is doubling down on the brutality.
Yeah.
The Raid films are very cool, mean action sequences, and you get all of that here in Havoc. It's upsetting at times. It's repulsive at times. And I think it's compelling as a result. When we leave that scene, though, and we just go back into the movie, it's a long trudge to the next interesting element, which is another action sequence.
Yeah, but I think from that moment on, the movie does start to kind of pick up and move at a better clip, like as far as like with the pacing of it. Because I mean, really, there are two big action set pieces. We have the nightclub, and then we have the fish house that's in the woods. And then I like how Gareth Evans take like his kinetic, kind of frantic energy that he brings to action sequences, and now he's kind of doing that in more of a John Woo style of action. Because I had watched interviews with Gareth Evans, and he had talked about some of his influences for this movie. And John Woo comes from a subgenre of action movies that we know as like the heroic bloodshed, which really deals with a lot of melodrama. And you can see that Gareth Evans is really trying to pay homage to that subgenre of action. I don't think he really has
I think he
a lot
fails.
of the, I don't think he really has a lot of the skill sets to really tell those type of stories.
I think the melodrama isn't interesting. I think you know, Tom Hardy's story, his character's story is not interesting. His end is not interesting.
Yeah.
You know, all I see is what's not there when I'm watching Havoc. And by the time we got to that nightclub scene, which is phenomenal, the movie had already lost me, and I was not drawn back in, maybe the way that you were drawn back in.
Well, I was only drawn in from the filmmaking aspect of it. I had already checked, just like with you, I had already checked out when it come to the characters and the story. But then I'm thinking, okay, I like Gareth Evans, so I'm going to go ahead and give this a chance. And then when it does get to what he's known for, when it comes to that kinetic and kind of frantic energy, the way he moves the camera, you know, the way he fills the frame when it comes to like a lot of those shootouts, that's something else that, you know, we're talking about emulating John Woo. Like the way John Woo is able to fill the frame when it comes to a lot of the shoot, how he's able to kind of frame it where everything is in the same shot.
I just think that Tom Hardy's the problem, really. Because we have Tom Hardy, we have to have a certain type of character, and his story that they hang on him is not as interesting as Forrest Whitaker's story, you know, or the crime boss that's you know, mad that her son has died, you know. Like, the parents in this story, those parents versus Tom Hardy's parent, like I think there's something there. But just the dots don't get connected.
I could see that, because I am thinking about that crime boss and like the relation to her son that had gotten killed, and then also with Forrest Whitaker's character and how he wants to protect his son. And there is something thematically similar when it comes to that idea of parenting. I think Gareth Evans is trying to speak to something with that, but you're right. I think with all of his filmmaking abilities and his talent, there's something that is lacking in his filmmaking with this particular story.
His storytelling. It really is storytelling.
His storytelling. But the Raid and the Raid 2, man, like,
they're so good. They're so good. And you can't expect a filmmaker to deliver a third movie as good as The Raid or The Raid 2.
No.
And, you know, when you look at the first Raid, which is just such a thin, scripted movie, but you feel for our main protagonist in The Raid. And just through a few lines of dialogue or through scenes before the action pops off. You know, and like that's, you know, they have so much more time in Havoc, and they don't get us to care at all.
I don't know. What's your rating for this?
To me, it's a big miss. You know, it's streaming on Netflix. I don't know. You're doing your laundry. You got to watch something while you're doing it. Here you go. Watch Havoc.
Yeah, if you're doing your laundry for the first 40 minutes, but I think after that, you can kind of get locked in.
You're doing your chores, and then like something happens, and you walk.
You're like,
okay, back to chores. Back to chores.
So I'm gonna give it a B+, only because, and again, maybe I'm just being defensive for Gareth Evans. I really root for him as a director. I think what he introduced with The Raid and The Raid 2 is something that's undeniable and has changed really action films for the better. There you go. Those are our thoughts on Havoc.
If you liked what you just saw,
then check us out on YouTube at PGC TV Online, and we'll see you at the movies.